is always the color that challenges artists and students of the arts. So I'm going to do a little informal grid today and create some squares that are each of them a little playground in which to explore how to mix this hardest and most beautiful and life-affirming color. So I'm looking at using three colors. I'm using yellow and blue and red. And I'm just using one version of each of these colors. And my first square is taking that mixture of yellow and blue that I've used my palette to concoct. And then I'm adding a little more yellow to it each time, cleaning off my brush in between. And I'm adding in a little bit more water. So each of these iterations of the color green is in this row just using yellow and blue with higher percentages of yellow and higher percentages of water as I move across. And my last square, I'm dipping in, I'm creating a little playground of just water and adding the yellow and the blue to it, just as another way to see what happens. My second row, I'm introducing a little bit of the red, and I'm creating, again, a mixture in the center of my plastic palette that is yellow, blue, and a little bit of red. And then I'm adding a little bit more red. So this green will go into a more neutralized and natural kind of expression, mossy greens and greens that you see in nature are typically not going to be sort of a pure out of the tube apple green, although we do see that sometimes. But having that ability to soften and naturalize a green is really important, just as important as it is to create something really shiny and bright and vivid and pure. So having that range, and on a simple 5x7-inch watercolor page, using only 3 pigments, you can create a real range of greens. It's really important and valuable for painting in the way that you desire to paint. So with my next segment, I'm taking 3 squares and I'm going to create a bigger swatch of each tone and do some optical mixing, which is actually creating a yellow world, a blue world, and then a red world. And then I'm letting the paint dry. This is no longer going to be wet into wet and mixing in the square. It's going to be creating one color, letting it dry completely, which may mean letting it dry for 20 minutes. So you have to kind of really give yourself time for this part. And then coming back on top of it with a second layer of color. It's quite traditional to create layered watercolors, but you need a lot of time to do so. So I'm coming back on top of the yellow after having allowed an interval of time to pass with just the color blue. And blue and yellow mixing optically in your eye create the most beautiful green. Here I'm going over my blue with yellow, just yellow, but you see that it becomes green, right? So in your eye, the light is bouncing off of the white of the paper and coming back through the layers of color and telling you that it's green. I'm darkening a few squares that I did before, also just to show you that layering can happen where you're deepening and darkening a color. And then I'm going back on top of the red, first with blue and then with yellow, just again to create an optical green that is not mixed wet into wet in the square, but mixed in your eye where the light is coming through these 3 layers of color and giving you this experience of seeing the color green. When I'm experimenting like this, I'm always sort of going off on detours, like tossing salt into paint and backtracking. So I'm doing this again because we kind of rushed through it earlier, where I'm creating a square of water, and I want to just play in that square, that rectangle, with color, and let the color kind of be, let it be a playground. I mean, this is really the message. even with just yellow and blue and a rectangle of water. And a little help with some gravity, picking it up and moving it around. You can see and learn so much. It's so fun. It's always a surprise. You can add other elements to the process: salt, another color, wax to create a resist, a shape. This is really just a splodge, but it's a lot of fun.